Hey you, I'm Sarah Turner. I'm a copywriter and copywriting mentor. And I was thinking the other day about how when I was first starting out, how there were so many new terms and phrases that I constantly felt like I was looking things up. And also it really activated my imposter syndrome and made me feel like I had no idea what I was doing. So I encourage my students to always research as you go, to learn through osmosis, because you're going to get a lot of new terminology kind of thrown at you. And the best way to do that is to just, anytime you hear a new word, like look it up, take the time to learn it, and you will be amazed at how much you can learn in just a few months. So, but then I was thinking, because I was looking through the comments on YouTube and reading, a lot of the requests for videos are around certain ideas or terms. And so I thought it might be a good idea to just kind of run through, in no particular order, some random and helpful copywriting and marketing jargon and terminology. So again, I kind of quickly compiled a list. It is not in any particular order, but I came up with 47 words for you. So let's get started. So first, I want to go ahead and start by talking about copywriting itself and the word copy, because that is something that initially people get a little confused with. So copywriting is obviously the act of writing copy, which is writing that is designed and uses psychology and, just the human awareness and emotional techniques to get people to do what you want them to do. And now, obviously, the very next question people ask is that manipulative? And to some degree, it is. But I really believe that in the world we live in, first of all, when you start studying copywriting, you realize that it is used absolutely everywhere. Political speeches, it's something that you're going to start to see in every aspect of your life. So I think it's really important to learn copywriting, not only if you want to, develop it as a skill, but also because it is something that you'll become more aware of and less susceptible to, so you can kind of make a little bit better decisions. But the other thing about copywriting is if you are writing for a brand or a business or a company that you truly believe in their product and how they help people and what they do, it is necessary for you to actually sell and market that product. Even if you had the cure for cancer, you are going to need to get that in front of people and convince them that this is what the route they should go, the product they should use to cure their cancer. So people aren't just going to sign up for your product because it's amazing. You have to explain to them, persuade them, and show them why it's amazing, why they should trust you. So you can do copywriting in a very slimy way, and we've all seen examples of that, but you also can do copywriting from a very genuine place. So I'm actually going to try and speed up because we got a lot to get through, but that is just the general idea around copywriting and copy. So copy is just the words that we are talking about. It is the actual written words that are on a web page, a landing page, whatever. So the next one is a CTA, or a call to action. And that is what I really, the simple way of separating copywriting from content writing is to say that it has a CTA. And there's more to it than that, quite honestly. But a call to action basically means you are now calling out what it is you want the reader to do. So you can write really amazing copy, but if you don't give them a call to action and say, this is the next step I want you to take, it's often not going to get you the results that you want. So a CTA is very, very important. The next phrase is direct response copy, or direct response copywriting. Now, honestly, all copywriting should be direct response. Copywriting is about getting people to act now, and that is what direct response copywriting is kind of calling out. However, in today's world, with the way that marketing has shifted because of social media and things like, and just the, desires of consumers, right? It's slightly shifted the world of copywriting, and it isn't always as direct response as it initially started out as being. So basically what I'm trying to say here is Direct response copywriting is kind of a phrase that people, especially in the copywriting world, are using to distinguish themselves from other copywriters, because they're saying, yeah, that person is a copywriter, but I'm direct response, meaning I write so that people act and do what we want them now. So at the bottom of a sales page. For example, a sales page is a perfect example of something that is always and should always be direct response copy. So, The next one I want to talk about is an ideal customer. It is so important in copywriting to identify your ideal customer, because when you don't do that, you are not talking to them directly. And that is an important aspect of copywriting, is that you directly speak to your person. And that means including their lingo, touching on their pain points, their dreams, their aspirations. And so identifying your ideal customer, sometimes people say coming up with an avatar is another word for that. And that just means really taking the time to outline who it is you're talking to, which we should all be doing. The next one is a target market. So it's kind of the same thing, but bigger. It's, an ideal customer is one individual. And I think imagining that one individual and talking to them is really important. Target market just kind of encompasses everyone that makes up, those ideal customers. Because at the end of the day, when you are writing copy, and as a copywriter, when you're picking a niche, you got to make sure that there's actually a market. And how do you know, basically, again, this is supposed to be the quick summaries. We could dig into each of these as a YouTube video of their own. And actually, if you'd like to hear more on one in particular, let me know in the comments. But so the target market, the way that you can kind of quickly know that there's a market for your niche or for whatever your product is by looking to see if there are other products or services out there, and also kind of just doing your research and seeing if you're doing an individual product, although this is more about product creation, not copywriting, it would be to, have focus groups or even jump into Facebook groups and see the conversations people are having within a particular area. Okay, so that got kind of broad. I'm going to try and stay more narrow moving forward. The next one is a swipe file. So a swipe file is the idea that as you're doing your research as a copywriter, it's a good idea to just constantly have a folder. It's probably, for me, it's just a Google Doc where I put ideas, or maybe I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see an excellent ad. I have a folder in my Instagram, my save folder called ads. I save them there. And then when I'm going to sit down to actually write copy, I often open my swipe files to kind of get ideas. So that's really what a swipe file is. Another way that it's sometimes used is a client will say, hey, can you write me some swipe copy? It's not really a swipe file, but I wanted to make sure that we differentiated between the two. But swipe copy might be, say I'm writing an email to give to a bunch of different people to promote a launch of my product, for example. I could write swipe copy, which would be an email that they could make their own and send to their own email list. So those are kind of the two main ways that you'll hear swipe used. So the next one is B2B versus B2C copywriting. So B2B stands for business to business and B2C stands for business to consumer. So basically that just means, is your business that you're writing for, are they going directly to the customer, or are they selling to another business that then takes your product and somehow uses it to go to consumers? So I mostly write in B2C copywriting. B2B copywriting is a huge industry and niche. So just so when you hear that, if you're on your first client call and somebody says, oh, we're a B2B something or another, you might want to know what the difference is between those two. So moving right along, I'm trying to speed up and see we're only at number 9. We've got inbound marketing, and I'm going to directly follow that with outbound marketing. So think of it like this. Inbound marketing is basically any marketing you do that gets people to come to you. So that would be a lot of SEO copywriting, website copy, blogs, for example. Outbound marketing is anything that you go out and get people in. So that would be something like emails or direct response mail by, because that's kind of old school, but still people are having a lot of success with that. But, when people would send out mailers to get new or prospective customers, for whatever it is they're selling, maybe books, something like that. You're going out and grabbing them to come in. Okay, so I know it's a little bit, might be a little bit more confusing. So if you want more reading on that, I definitely recommend checking out HubSpot for some good descriptions around that. But basically, inbound is anything that gets people to come in, and outbound means you're kind of going out and grabbing them. Okay, so an email list. An email list is just the number of emails that somebody has opted into or subscribed to. It's usually hosted inside an email platform like ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, MailChimp is a popular one. It's a list of all the different emails, but keep in mind, people have to choose to be on your email list. If you purchase an email list, there are definitely penalties for that. You'll have worse open rates, things like this. But building an email list is a really powerful marketing strategy because you can have a conversation with somebody in what I like to call their virtual living room. There are a lot less regulations as to what you can say in an email as you can say, for example, on a Facebook ad. But building an email list is generally a good idea for most businesses. So that brings us to email marketing. Again, there are different email platforms depending on the niche that you're in. For example, Klaviyo is pretty well known for being one of the best email marketing platforms for e-commerce businesses. So email marketing is great because you get lots of numbers and statistics right away. You get open rates, you get unsubscribe rates, and so you get a lot of good real-time feedback. So email marketing is definitely a niche within copywriting. You could totally focus all of your energy on email marketing. It's also great because it tends to be a little more conversational and you don't necessarily have to worry about citations, things like that. Obviously, you still want to be providing good information. So an email newsletter is oftentimes something that a business sends out a few times a month to kind of showcase any new blogs that have been written, any new things that have happened in the company, any new deals that are coming up. Okay, so that brings us to an email sequence. An email sequence is a series of automated emails within your, set up within your email platform, like some of the ones I've mentioned so far. And basically it's automated. So you can either set it to go like once a day, or you can have it set up so when somebody takes a certain action, they get a certain email. And it's a really effective way to, and an opportunity for more direct response copy. So you can, announce a sale, you can announce an opening or a launch, you can set up a challenge that incorporates a lot of your products throughout. So next up we have open rate. Open rate is referring to the number of people who receive your email who actually open it. And again, it varies by industry, just like a lot of numbers do, but 20% is generally considered a good open rate. That brings us to the unsubscribe rate. And again, the industry standard, which is considered kind of acceptable, is around 1%. So one thing I always remind clients is that you do want people unsubscribing to your emails. You would like to have a more engaged list and to really be in front of the people who actually want to read what you're putting out in the world. So don't be afraid if you have some people unsubscribing from your email list. Again, 1 to 2% is totally okay. If you get anything more than that, then it definitely might be worth looking into. Are people getting what they expect from you? What are you like? Clickbaity headlines might be turning them off, things like that. So an opt-in, which I've already mentioned, is something that we put on our websites, usually in the form of a pop-up or a sign-up or something like that, or it can be a little baby landing page or sometimes a more complex one on a Facebook ad. But basically, it is where there is a box that says, fill out your email address and subscribe to my email list. So an opt-in generally works better if you give them something in exchange for that email. So like a free piece of content, for example. But opt-ins are how you build your email list. Another thing I want to talk about is conversion. Conversion rate is basically how many percentage of people go from seeing whatever it is you're putting out there to actually taking the action you want. So a very common one would be maybe a click-through rate or a cost per lead in Facebook ads. So a click-through rate or a CTR would be how many people actually click on the link that you are putting out for your Facebook ad, for example. That's one of the more common ways. It also, click-through rate can be measured in email depending on how many people click on that link. Basically, it's how many people click on the link you want them to click on. And then a cost per lead is another conversion number, which is how many dollars did it take in ad spend for somebody to actually opt into your email list or even purchase or do whatever it is that you want that lead to do. So those are some other, industry jargony words. Next up, we've got sales page and landing page. These are often used interchangeably. A sales page, landing page, I feel like tends to also include opt-ins. Those can also be used interchangeably. A landing page basically means like where you land when you click a link, and usually it's a part of the process and where you are actually going to take a more direct action, oftentimes a sale. So again, this is where it can kind of get confusing. Sales page and landing page can be used interchangeably, and landing page and opt-in page can be used interchangeably, but an opt-in is not a sales page. I know this is like, what's a square versus a rectangle? A square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not necessarily a square. Don't let this freak you out. Just know that these are all terms, and it's also okay to ask. That's what I love to remind people. Ask for clarification. If somebody says like, I'd love for you to work on this landing page, ask, what's the purpose? What's the goal? Get some clarity. So next up, I want to talk about search engine optimization, or SEO. And this is a process that includes all sorts of strategies, like using the right keywords well to help a website rank organically. So it shows up at the top of the list when you search something related to it in Google. So for example, if you were to type in medical copywriter and then my webpage comes up towards the top, that means I'm doing a good job on SEO. So some of the things that Google is the main one, but YouTube is also one. Bing is also a search engine. Two of the main factors that are looked at by Google to decide how well a page should rank is authority and relevance. So authority measures the number of links that are pointing to a particular website and how trustworthy those links are. Because the more you have other websites pointing to your website, Google thinks, okay, this must be an authoritative site. Relevance determines how relevant your page is to a particular search engine user, depending on how often you use a certain number of keywords in your content and other things. But basically, when you type in best dog groomer in Santa Monica, California, Google is trying to find you the most relevant, closest dog groomer. So that would be how relevant it is. Then we've got keywords. These are basically words, for example, dog grooming, Santa Monica, California. Those are examples of keywords that you use in SEO-based copywriting. Then you've got long-tail keywords, which I love. Long-tail keywords are keywords that are like generally 3 to 5 words long. I really love them. They're more specific generally than keywords. So for example, if you were typing in copywriter, that would be a very generic keyword. But if you were to type in medical freelance copywriter, that would be a longer tail keyword. We're getting more specific. We're kind of telling Google exactly what we want to see. So close variant keywords are basically keywords that are just very similar and related, usually like different combinations and similar combinations of keywords, but they're related. Then we've got alt description or alt text. This is basically the words that are entered into the description of an image on a website, and its main purpose, its primary purpose, is communicating to Google what an image is about. It's also really beneficial to people who are writing SEO copy, and it's becoming a little bit more important. So then we've got backlinks. So remember when I said it was really important that other websites are pointing to a website to say, hey, Google, this is an authoritative site? Backlinks are those links. So they are the links from another website that points to yours. And they're really important for SEO. Next up, we've got H1 and H2s. These are basically formatting indicators on the back end of websites. So it's something that I enter in, like I'll highlight a title or a subtitle. My title will be H1, my subtitle will be H2 in a Google Doc that I'm writing for either web copy or blogs. Because again, this only matters for types of copy that need SEO. So that means can be searched by Google. So social media posts, Facebook ads, landing pages, sometimes, not all, usually not. They don't really matter. But H1s and H2s indicate to Google that this is a hierarchy of important words. So H1s are at the top of the hierarchy, saying this is what this page is about, Google, pay attention. H2 says like this is what this section is about, and also reiterates like what this whole like page is about. So they're super important for basically saying this is the most important, this is the second most important thing on my web page or my blog. So that brings me to the word I've kind of used a few times now, is backend. Backend just refers to the back of a website. It's the opposite of the front end. The front end is what the user is using, and the back end is what you are typing in when you're updating your website, or when your client is updating your website, or whoever. Then we've got meta descriptions. So when you type into Google and there is basically like the title and the URL, and then underneath it is this little blurb or a little description, that's a meta description. And meta descriptions will automatically pull from your website if you don't take the time to enter them into the back end on the section for a meta description. So I'd like to encourage you to, in your own website, in your client's website, and especially if you're writing anything that's SEO optimized, you definitely want to take the time to write a meta description. Next up, I want to throw in white paper, which is actually a type of copywriting. And a form of copywriting. So white papers are generally pieces of copy that are meant to look extremely unbiased, but ultimately their purpose is to sell a product. And these are often used when there is a particular product that maybe is extremely expensive, or maybe the audience is for, I don't know, maybe a good example is, what I always use as an example is like medical equipment. If you're selling a piece of medical equipment that's like $30,000, the person who's purchasing is not going to buy it based on like 1,000-word landing page, right? They're going to want something that is more in depth, more thorough, scientifically backed, and appears unbiased. So a white paper is something that might be written, and again, it's copywriting, and it is marketing to sell something that big or that complex. It could also be that something is complex, like supplements are another one that often have white papers, things like that. But copywriting for white papers is actually a wonderful niche, especially if you like more technical writing. It pays really well. Okay. Next up, we've got A/B split testing. So A/B split testing has become much easier through email platforms and different the back end of Facebook ads and things like that. A/B split testing basically means you make a version 1 and a version 2 of the headline. Maybe you just change the headline, maybe you just change the image, and you test them both with a set audience, and then the winner is what you use moving forward. So actually in email platforms rather, they have made it really easy to do this. You can often set 2 different subject lines. It will send it out to maybe 10% of your list and see how many people engage with the email and open it, and then it will automatically pick a winner and send it out the rest of the winner of the email subject line contest, the A/B split test, out to the rest of your email list. So, but basically A/B split testing means testing 2 things side by side. Next up, we've got a case study, and a case study is a really wonderful piece of copy that basically takes a testimonial and digs really deep. Case studies are really powerful for handling objections. They are really amazing at highlighting different elements of a particular person so that, somebody else coming across your product or service might really relate to that. Again, I really think they're fantastic for handling objections. That's one of my favorite things about case studies. Maybe somebody says, oh, I'm too old. And then you have a case study of somebody who's older who's used your product and it's just been wonderful for them. Something like that. So then we've got style guides or writing guidelines. So that's something that you should definitely ask a client, especially if they're a bigger client, if they have one for you already. It's also worth writing one for a client. And basically that just outlines the tone, things that are acceptable, things that are not acceptable, goals, how they want to appear. It can also get really detailed into, this is how we format things, things like that. So that is really helpful. I also want to talk a little bit about proofreading versus editing. So you can hire a proofreader at a much more affordable rate than hiring a full-on editor. And I think that at the very least, you should hire a proofreader. It helps you catch things that you won't catch very easily yourself. Because when you read your own writing, you tend to miss things like if you're missing the word the, that's supposed to be there and you're just going to blow right by it. So proofreading versus editing, I kind of wanted to clarify that because I saw some of you guys asking about that. Editing is like everything, grammar, thoughts, just the logic of it all, the emotional techniques you're using, how it comes across. Is it condescending? Is it encouraging? So editing is much more thorough. Proofreading is basically skimming it to get kind of the basics down and make sure you didn't have any glaring mistakes. Okay, next up we've got sitemaps. So when you are writing a copy for a website, and it doesn't exist yet, you're gonna need a sitemap. And a sitemap basically tells you how the website is organized. So it kind of looks like a little bit of a flow chart where it will just have basically the menu items at the top, and then it will like spider down into the submenu. So for example, home page, about page, frequently asked page, testimonials, contact information, blog, that might be the top. And then there will be little subtitles below. And that just tells you what pages need to be written. You can come up with one, your client might come up with one, and then the web developer might come up with one. I've been in situations where it's been every variety of situations where we've come up with one together. But just know that that's what a sitemap is. It's basically a website map. It shows you how the website's gonna fit together. Next up, I want to touch on bounce rate, which probably should have been with the more SEO type words, but bounce rate is the rate at which people come to your website, see that it's not what they were looking for, and then leave. So it's like when they bounce out of there, right? Having a high bounce rate is not good. This is why you want to make sure that you are using meta descriptions to showcase exactly what they're going to get when they click on your website, and then also why it's super important to have really amazing copy to keep them on there, because the bounce rate can negatively affect your SEO. Another kind of SEO related word is keyword density, which is the percentage of times that a keyword appears on a page. So for example, if your word has 400 page and the keyword is used 40 times, then it's going to have a 10% density, which is pretty high. Some people say, I kind of hate keyword density because some people say, oh, you should have a 3% keyword density. And sometimes it works, but sometimes it sounds super unnatural and weird. And I'm much more about focusing on what is going to outlast the Google algorithms changes and sound great for your reader. But basically, some people say you should have anywhere between a 1 to a 3% keyword density on SEO optimized copy, and I'm sure that will change because it does. Everything like that changes. Then we've got lead generation. So lead generation is everything that is included to bring in new leads, new prospective customers. And that might be Facebook ads, that might be email sequences, that might be blogs. So lead generation just kind of is an all-encompassing term. Then we've got niche. All right, we're kind of wrapping up. I see the end. Hang with me. So niche is basically your industry. And I think it's really important to have a niche as a copywriter because that is how you give your business and yourself focus. And it's how you become eventually an expert in an industry. Seriously, I have now written textbook chapters, which I do for fun because I'm a nerd, on topics that I became an expert in by having a niche. So I really recommend having a niche. I think it's an important concept. Next up, we got ROI, which is return on investment. And this basically means how much money are you putting in versus how much money are you getting it back. Obviously, you want a higher ROI. And so ROAS is another related term that's specific to ads because it's return on ad spend. And that is how many dollars you're putting in versus how many dollars you're getting back. So a good ROAS is anything kind of over than 1. Actually, this is something that people love to disagree with. It's better to be like closer to 2. Ads are getting more expensive and a little bit harder to see profits on. So that's just because they're more competitive, basically. So ROAS and ROI kind of go hand in hand. ROAS is more specific. Return on investment is just honestly a business term and can be used in so many different scenarios. But make sure you know what it means in your particular industry and with your particular clients. So then we've got funnel. Funnel is basically all the pieces of copy and how it fits together to bring somebody from not, and like imagine the shape of a funnel, not knowing who you are, and you're gonna have more people up here at the top of your funnel, to a place where they actually buy. So each step along the way in a funnel and how it got its name is because you have more people at the top and less make it through until they actually make a purchase. So maybe, for example, you have a conversion rate of 1%. It means if you have 100 people at the top of your funnel and you bring them through all the different pieces of copy, maybe it's a Facebook ad, then it's an opt-in, then it's an email sequence, then it's a sales page to make the actual sale, and you get one person to actually purchase from the original 100, you have a 1% conversion rate. So that is what a funnel is. It basically is all the steps along the way, and they can look very different to bring somebody from maybe not knowing who you are to purchasing. And that actually brings me to the next one, which is warm versus cold. So a cold lead is somebody who has no idea who you are. That's why cold emailing gets its name. You're reaching out to somebody who's never heard of you before. So, and then a warm prospect is somebody who's already maybe been on your email list and is familiar with you, and so they're considered warm. So that, again, the funnel can be a warm funnel, it can be a cold funnel, it could be a mixture of both, but again, it kind of encompasses all the steps along the way that bring them from the top to the bottom where they actually make a purchase. So warm versus cold is something you'll also hear in different contexts. And then I guess I'll wrap up with the word evergreen. So evergreen is when you put a funnel on like automation, so it's consistently performing. So we live in a really amazing time where we can set up funnels ourselves. We don't need to print in magazines. We don't need billboards. We don't need enough money to, advertise on television. We can actually do this all ourselves pretty affordably. It's really like a really amazing time to be a copywriter and a marketer. So putting something on Evergreen means that you have the automations in place to where your funnel is constantly running. And it's kind of the ideal scenario for most clients. It also, like, I guess the opposite of a funnel, an evergreen would be launches. That would be an example of the opposite, where you actually like build up a launch, you announce things, you give a pre-launch, you do a bunch of social media posts, you build it up, whatever, and then you have a launch. But there are other examples besides launches to explain what the opposite of evergreen is, but that's just something that I think is important when you hear evergreen. Okay, that was a lot. I feel like I was a million miles a minute because I was trying to do it as fast and efficiently. And remember, each of these could have been their own video in and of themselves, for sure. So if you have something you'd love to hear me, expand on, I'm happy to do so. Leave me comments and hit that thumbs up button if this was helpful for you. I just remember when I was starting out and I was constantly hearing these terms and I was like, what is everybody talking about? So I really hope it helps for you. And of course, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks, guys.